My name is Lois S. Smith. I'm 28 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my boyfriend, Caleb Mercer, mocked me for caring whether he was okay, told me to stop being so needy, and said he would talk to me whenever he felt like it. I looked at my phone, took a breath, and replied with the only words that suddenly made sense. As you wish. Until then, I thought I was in a healthy relationship. Caleb and I had been together for 2 years. We did not live together, but sometimes it felt like we did emotionally. We texted all the time. Good morning messages before work, random memes in the middle of the day, late night calls that drifted into sleepy silence. It was not obsessive. It was just us. Familiar, steady. The kind of communication that makes someone feel stitched into the rhythm of your life. That is why the change unsettled me so quickly. It started around month 20. Nothing dramatic at first, just little delays. Caleb would leave me on read for hours, sometimes a whole day, then reply like nothing was wrong. If I mentioned it, he laughed it off, said work was crazy, that I knew how busy things had been. And I did know. I wanted to be understanding. I backed off. I gave him room. But instead of getting better, it got worse. He would ignore my texts while posting stories online, brunches, gym mirror selfies, nights out with friends. I would see he was active, see the timestamps updating, see him everywhere except with me. My messages would sit untouched while the rest of his world kept moving. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking. We were adults, independent. He had his life. I had mine. But the feeling in my stomach would not go away. It was not jealousy. It was the quiet sense that I was being slowly moved to the side of my own relationship. And every time I noticed, I found a way to excuse it for him. Then came Thursday. I had spent the entire day buried in a miserable client project, debugging a system that seemed determined to fall apart every hour on the hour. By evening, I was exhausted in that specific way where all you want is one familiar voice to make the day feel less heavy. So I sent him a simple message, nothing dramatic, just, hey, checking in, haven't heard from you since yesterday morning. Everything okay? 3 hours later, my phone lit up. Jesus Christ. Do you need a GPS tracker on me now? I stared at the screen, genuinely confused. The message felt so sharp, so unnecessarily cruel, that for a second I wondered if I was missing context. I called him immediately. He answered on the 5th ring. Music was blaring in the background. I could hear laughter, glasses clinking. He sounded annoyed before I even spoke. What? I just wanted to make sure you were okay, I said. You've been distant lately. He sighed like I had interrupted something important. Then his voice went colder. Flatter. Stop being so needy. I'll talk to you whenever I feel like it. I don't owe you constant updates. The words hit harder because of how casually he said them, like I was not someone he loved, like I was a chore he had not gotten around to resenting out loud until then. 2 years of closeness, family dinners, future plans, weekends away, all reduced to me being some irritating demand on his time. I kept my voice calm because suddenly I could feel something settling inside me. Something clear and strangely still. As you wish, I said. Good, he snapped. Finally. Then he hung up. I sat on my couch for a long time with my phone in my hand, the apartment unnaturally quiet around me. I kept replaying his tone. Not just what he said, but how easy it had been for him to say it. That was the part I could not get past. If love had still been alive in him, it should have caught somewhere on the way out. It should have hesitated. It did not. I opened our chat and scrolled. Months of messages, inside jokes, weekend plans, photos, heart emojis, fragments of a relationship I had apparently been holding together more than I realized. Then I muted the conversation, turned off notifications, put my phone on silent, and set it face down on the coffee table. If he wanted space, I would give him all the space in the world. The first 3 days were harder than I expected. My body still moved toward him out of habit. I would reach for my phone with my morning coffee, wanting to send him a picture of the sunrise from my balcony. I would think of a joke during lunch and almost text it before remembering there was no point. I missed him, but even more than that, I missed the version of us I had been living inside. By day 5, the silence began changing shape. Instead of feeling empty, it started feeling clean. I went back to the gym every evening after work, called my older brother Evan, and ended up talking to him for nearly 2 hours. I deep cleaned my apartment, fixed the bathroom faucet that had been dripping for weeks, finished little tasks I had been putting off because without realizing it, I had been spending so much of my energy waiting for replies, waiting for warmth, waiting for the relationship to feel easy again. And through all of it, my phone stayed silent. Not one message from Caleb. That told me more than anything else could have. At the end of the first week, curiosity got the better of me, and I checked his social media. He had posted a mirror selfie, fully dressed up, looking relaxed and impossibly pleased with himself. The caption read, "Unbothered energy." A few stories later, he was at a downtown bar with friends, laughing into the camera like a man who had just shrugged off something inconvenient. He looked happy. Not sad, not conflicted, relieved. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then closed the app. That was the moment I stopped wondering whether I was too much. Because people do not look that light after pushing away someone they are afraid to lose. They look that light after finally saying what they have been wanting to say for a long time. And for the first time since that phone call, I did not feel hurt. I felt warned. By the second week, something inside me had fully shifted. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. There was no moment where I woke up suddenly healed or empowered. It was quieter than that, more subtle. Like a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been slowly removed, piece by piece, until one day I noticed I could breathe without thinking about it. I stopped checking my phone, not intentionally, not as some kind of discipline. I just forgot. Work picked up. A new project landed on my desk. A full system overhaul for a financial firm that demanded everything from me. Long hours, late nights, constant problem solving. It should have been exhausting, but instead it felt grounding. For the first time in months, my mind wasn't circling around someone else's behavior, trying to interpret it, excuse it, or fix it. I was focused, present. My colleague Daniel noticed it before I did. "You seem different lately," he said during a coffee break, watching me stir my drink absent-mindedly. "Different how?" "Calmer, sharper, like you're not distracted anymore." I smiled faintly, just focusing on myself. He nodded like he understood more than I was saying. "Sometimes the trash takes itself out," he said casually. "You just have to be smart enough not to bring it back in." I laughed, but the words stayed with me longer than I expected. Because that was exactly what it felt like. Not like I had lost something. Like something had quietly removed itself from my life. And I was only now realizing how much space it had been taking up. By the end of week 2, I realized I hadn't thought about Caleb all day. Not once. That realization surprised me more than anything else. 2 years of constant presence, and now he could go a full day without even crossing my mind. That told me everything I needed to know about what we had become. Week 3 was different again. Not just quiet. Peaceful. I started reading again, something I had stopped doing without even noticing. I finished 2 novels in a week, staying up late because I wanted to, not because I was waiting for a message that might never come. I reconnected with old friends, went to dinner with people I had been meaning to see for months, laughed more easily, slept better. I lived my life. And somewhere in the middle of that, Caleb disappeared. Not physically, emotionally, like a noise that had finally stopped. On day 23, I was in my kitchen cooking dinner. Pasta carbonara. Nothing complicated, but I had been trying to get the sauce just right for weeks. My phone buzzed on the counter. I had turned the sound back on a few days earlier, mostly for work. It was my brother Evan. "Hey," I answered, tucking the phone between my shoulder and ear. "Hey, random question," he said. "Is Caleb okay?" I froze slightly, wooden spoon hovering over the pan. "Why are you asking?" "He messaged me," Evan said. "Said he hasn't heard from you in weeks, and he's worried something happened." I blinked. "He's worried?" "Yeah, asked if you were okay, if something happened, if you're sick or something. I didn't even know you two were having issues." I let out a small breath. "We're not having issues," I said calmly. "We're just not talking." "That's one way to put it," Evan muttered. "What did you tell him?" "That you're fine. That he should ask you himself." I smiled faintly. Perfect. After we hung up, I stood there for a moment, processing. Then I picked up my phone. Opened my chat with Caleb. 37 unread messages. I didn't feel a rush of emotion. No anger. No satisfaction. Just curiosity. The first ones were casual. "Hey, you there?" Then they shifted. "Did you get my messages?" "Seriously, what's your problem?" Then sharper. "This is childish. You're acting like a child." Then confused. "I don't understand why you're being like this." And finally, fear. "Why are you ignoring me? Can we please talk? I'm getting worried." "This isn't funny anymore." The most recent one had been sent less than an hour ago. "I'm coming over. We need to talk. This has gone on long enough." I stared at the screen for a second, then set the phone back down. No response. No reaction. Just observation. I went back to cooking, slowly pouring the egg mixture into the pasta, stirring carefully so it wouldn't scramble. 20 minutes later, the knock came. Loud, sharp, urgent, not a polite knock, a demand. I turned off the stove, wiped my hands, and walked to the door slowly. Through the peephole, I saw him. Caleb, his hair messy, pulled back like he hadn't bothered fixing it properly. No effort in his appearance. His eyes red, tired, like he hadn't slept. He looked scared. For a second, I just stood there. Then I unlocked the door and opened it. He stared at me like I wasn't real. Like he had spent the last 3 weeks imagining every possible scenario except the one where I simply opened the door, calm, composed, completely fine without him. "You're okay?" he said, his voice unsteady. I leaned lightly against the doorframe. "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" He blinked rapidly, trying to process that. "You haven't answered me in 3 weeks," he said. "I thought something happened to you. I thought you were hurt or in the hospital or—" "I'm fine," I repeated, my tone even. "Just been busy." The shift in his expression was immediate. Relief, turning into confusion, then something sharper. "Busy?" he repeated. "You couldn't send one message, one text to let me know you were alive?" I tilted my head slightly. "You said you'd talk to me whenever you felt like it," I reminded him. I respected that. "That's not what I meant," he snapped, stepping closer. "You knew I didn't mean it like that." "What didn't you mean?" I asked calmly. "You seemed pretty clear on the phone." He ran both hands through his hair, pacing once across the hallway like he needed movement to contain himself. "I didn't mean you should just disappear," he said, his voice rising. "I didn't mean you should act like I don't exist." I watched him for a moment. "I didn't disappear," I said. "I've been right here. You just didn't notice because I stopped chasing you." That landed. I saw it in the way his shoulders dropped, in the way his eyes flickered, searching for something to push back with and finding nothing. "You're punishing me," he said finally, quieter now. "This is punishment." I shook my head slowly. "No, this is exactly what you asked for." That's not fair." What's not fair," I said, my voice still calm but firmer now, "is telling someone who cares about you that they're needy for wanting basic communication. What's not fair is making me feel like I was asking for too much when I was asking for the bare minimum." His eyes filled with tears, and for a second I remembered how that used to affect me. How quickly I used to soften, how instinctively I would step forward and fix whatever was hurting him. This time I didn't move. "I was stressed," he said, wiping his face roughly. "Work was insane, and I felt suffocated by how much you wanted to talk." "Then you say that," I replied. "You say, I need a few days. I need space. You don't mock me. You don't make me feel pathetic for caring." "I know," he whispered. "I know. I should have." He looked at me then, really looked at me, like he was seeing something unfamiliar. "But I didn't think you'd go this cold," he added. "This isn't like you." Maybe he was right. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it should have been, I said quietly. Maybe I should have had boundaries a long time ago instead of accepting whatever attention you decided to give me. He flinched at that. "Is that what you think this was?" he asked. "Scraps?" I held his gaze. That's exactly what it felt like. The silence between us stretched. Heavy, real. "Be honest," I continued. "You talked to me when it was convenient, when you were bored, when you needed attention. But the moment I needed reassurance, I was needy. The moment I asked for consistency, I was suffocating you." He didn't deny it. That was the loudest answer he could have given me. "I didn't realize," he said finally, his voice breaking. "I didn't know it felt like that for you." "You didn't ask." The words landed harder than anything else I had said. His face crumpled. "So that's it?" he whispered. 2 years? And you're just done?" I leaned against the doorframe, suddenly aware of how tired I felt. Not emotionally, but physically, like I had finally stopped carrying something heavy. "Are we over?" I asked. "Because from where I'm standing, we've been over for 3 weeks. You just didn't notice." His eyes flickered. "You saw my post," he said quietly. "I did." He looked down, shame creeping into his expression. "It wasn't about you," he said. "It was exactly about me," I replied. "And that's fine. You're allowed to feel relieved. You're allowed to want distance. But I'm also allowed to stop being an option you come back to when you feel like it." Tears were falling freely now, his voice shaking as he stepped closer again. "I love you." I felt the words land. And then, nothing. No warmth. No pull. Just emptiness. "Maybe you do," I said softly, "but you don't respect me. And I can't be with someone who makes me feel like loving them is something I should apologize for." He reached for my hand, desperate. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold on either. It just rested there, loose, disconnected. "I'll do better," he said. "I'll communicate. I'll make you a priority. Just give me another chance." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I gently pulled my hand back. "You'll do that for a while," I said. until you feel comfortable again, until you know I'm not going anywhere, and then we'll be right back here." His face fell. "Take care of yourself, Caleb," I added quietly. "I mean that." Then I stepped back and closed the door, softly, but firmly. I stood there for a moment listening. He didn't leave right away. I could hear him breathing, shifting, maybe hoping I'd open the door again. I didn't. After a while, the sound of his footsteps faded down the hallway. And just like that, it was over. I walked back into my kitchen. The pasta had gone cold. I dumped it out, filled the pot with fresh water, and started again. This time I turned on music. Something light, something mine. 2 months later, my brother told me Caleb was seeing someone new. A girl from his gym. I felt nothing. Not jealousy, not anger, not even curiosity. Just confirmation. I wasn't the problem. I was just the person who stayed too long. Work has never been better. I got promoted to senior consultant. The project I buried myself in during those 3 weeks of silence turned into one of the biggest successes in the company. I've gone on a few dates. Nothing serious. And that's okay. I'm not rushing anything. For the first time in a long time, I'm actually paying attention to what I want instead of trying to be what someone else needs. Last week, I got a long message from Caleb. An apology. An explanation. A request to talk when I'm ready. I read it once, then archived it. Some conversations don't need to happen. Some apologies come too late. And some people only realize what they had when it's already gone. These days, my phone is quiet, but it doesn't feel empty. It feels peaceful, like my time belongs to me again, like my life belongs to me again. And maybe that's what love is supposed to feel like. Not anxiety, not waiting, not shrinking yourself to fit someone else's comfort, just peace.